But like you were saying, man, I love how you're so modest. Especially like within the 707, brother. Like I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, in our little bubble, people know who you are. Even before I met Michaela, okay?
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I'm like, oh, dude, like a Filipino homie is like kind of doing his thing within the barber game and
Yeah.
also doing his entrepreneurship thing.
I mean, I don't do that on purpose. I really genuinely want to know how you know, because I guess when I guess things popped off for me, or I did my thing and people know who I was, I didn't get the love when in LA. So that's when it kind of happened in terms of like me cutting celebrities and commercials and athletes and things like that. So when I ask people, I'm like, did you watch a video? Did someone tell you? Like, were you following me? And I kind of gauge that because I'm more so like, how do people like follow me, and are people willing to say so? And because there's a reaction you can get sometimes where it's like, oh, tight, like, cool, like, you know, but I genuinely want to know, like, because if you really follow me, you fuck with me, then I'm like, dude, thank you. Yeah. You know, because I want to tell you my story. I want to inspire. I want to, whether it's a small business or a barber, I really want to help them get through the things that I know I went through in order for them to get to the next level.
Yeah. That's beautiful, because that's kind of why I started the podcast. It's the same thing. Like, I think sharing a person's story can be helpful to like so many people. I mean, even if it's just one person, you know. And then it's always intrigued me, and I think it's so ironic that you're wearing the shirt that you're wearing. You're wearing the debut shirt. Yeah. Because, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but when I watched that movie, I think you're younger than me, but I was what, 8th grade or something like that when it came out. I'm 35.
I'm 34.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, we're pretty much the same age. So.
But the difference within this shirt is I think it used to be red.
Yeah?
Yeah, and this one's yellow.
I think you're right. It was red.
It was red.
Yeah.
So when I saw this one, I don't know if this is more so the production one, but for sure, I know it's hella hard to find.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah. So when that movie came out, I don't know. I guess when you're in 8th grade, but it was so like big to me. Like, oh, there's Filipinos on the big screen. I remember watching it at Edwards here in Fairfield, across the street. And then that's kind of like something I always think about. And then it kind of relates to when I first saw you. So it was, to answer your question like more specifically, it was Instagram when I first saw you. Okay. And then I was just like, oh, dude. And then also I remember I used to get cut at this spot, and then I remember them like kind of referring to you once in a while. It was in American Canyon. I think you cut there before?
J&J's?
Yeah. And did you cut there before?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd bring you up all the time, and you know, I would just listen as I was getting my hair cut.
Dude, I want to know what they said. If you remember, but I would like to know.
It was all positive, and that's when I first heard your name. They're like, oh, you know, now this was a while back, because I was getting cut by JT Pauly. I think you know him.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So
that's the boy. I used to cut his hair when he was hecka small.
Yeah.
And now I just reconnected with him, and shoot, I'm hoping I could bring him on my team, really. That's how I see it, yeah. But
he listens to the pod, so.
He's a solid dude, man. Like, I watched him grow, and I want to know more of his story when I was gone, is because I usually like to but I want to know, again, why he chose that career. And what kept him going, the challenges he went through, but a lot of the time I don't know, maybe this is, I don't know how to say it, but barbers like need mentors. You know, I'm not saying I'm going to be the best mentor for everybody, but I didn't have mentorship, like direct mentorship. And so knowing that I used to cut him, and if he got inspired to cut hair because of me or whatever the case may be, like, I want to be there for him now, like, all the way.
I love that.
And dude. So, yeah, man, shout out to James. Hell yeah.
He's actually my wife's cousin, first cousin.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. So that whole Pauly family?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mainly cool with, like, him and his sister Hazel and Isa, but I've definitely met the Pauly family.
For sure. Isa, I got my a license because of her. She let me drive her car for my license
No way.
test. Yeah.
So that's crazy, man.
So I got a whole history with them too, man. They're just fam for sure.
Yeah. I guess when you kind of come out of Vallejo, you know, you're gonna run into certain people, right? It's funny. So how did you really get your start in the barber world. Oh, by the way, you're the third barber interview that I've had on the pod.
For real?
Yeah, dude.
Tight.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. Who was the other barbers, if you don't mind?
My homie that I went to high school with, he opened a shop like 6 or 8 years ago.
Where at?
It's just in Vacaville. It's called Above Ground Society. His name's Pat.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I'll get my hair cut with him sometimes. And then he has a partner too. His name's Barber June, who he also works at the same shop.
Tight. Are they Pinots?
No, Pat's I think he's Hmong, dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's Hmong. And then Barber June's Hispanic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, I always love meeting barbers, so I might even dive into your old podcast and see what they talk about.
And like, it's funny because we would find so many parallels because I'm a chef by trade.
Yeah.
And there's just so many parallels between, in my opinion, being a chef and a barber, because we use our hands.
For sure.
You have a lot of room to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And the service that you provide, it's very, what's the word? I don't know. There's so many variables to it.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, I get what you're saying though, because chefs, like, I don't know. I met a couple of chefs recently, and I do find the similarities and stuff like that. So that's
so I'm
dope,
not crazy.
Man. Nah, man. Because there's, like you said, there's a lot of creativeness. You get to be creative, and then you get to see people and see how they feel, and you're like, that's what you do it for.
Yes, that's what I said. So like when I give someone a burrito and I see that smile on the face, maybe it's almost the same thing, because like every time I get a haircut, I'm pretty sure you see that. Like, you just change how that person feels.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing that you do.
Mm-hmm. I used to compare it to shoes and be like, it's like getting a new pair of shoes, but you used to get them back then. I used to get them every year. Now it's like, when you get them, you're like, oh, that's the feeling, but it's the haircut feeling, it's the food feeling.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right, going back to that question.
Yeah.
Very like the very, very beginning, or like when it gets juicy?
It's up to you, man. We got all the time in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
I started because of my older brother, Dennis. He bought a pair of clippers from Costco, and then he would cut our hair. He was very artistic. And I was sort of an artistic kid when I was young. I liked to draw and stuff like that. So he just took a chance. He said, JayR, cut my hair. I'm tired of paying $25 at a salon. So he let me cut his hair. It took 2 hours. Fucked it up. But then this was when I was in the 6th grade. And then the next day, I think it was on a Monday, I went to school like telling people, yeah, I cut hair. And then so my friend Nathan Bautista, he just let me cut his hair every week, every 2 weeks, whenever we figured that we needed haircuts. And it was really just straight lines, and then you kind of fade out the line, but not really, no. And then I took that on, and then there was a couple other people that would just carry the haircut culture with them just because they had clippers, but I was like serious about it. I was like, no, like I cut hair. First it was like in middle school, guys were getting, fades with razor lines and spikes. So that was easy. But then I was creating really straight lines around the head. And then, the African Americans, black friends, they were like, dude, you make straight lines. Can you cut like our hair? I'm like, I don't know. Can I? And so I was kind of like, the more and more, I realized that, we grew up around black people and Filipino people in Vallejo. So the more and more I hooped, the more and more my older brother's friends, were coming along. I eventually got into the trade of doing lineups and tapers, and it came from my black friends and Hispanic friends. It wasn't Filipinos. No way. We weren't getting tapers and lineups and fades. Yeah. No way. We're going to salons. So I kind of took it, and visually I saw things, and I was like, okay, how do I get there? And so I would practice on this kind of same group of friends. I had there was maybe 15 of us, and I would always fade, but there was a point where I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna line up now, but what tool do I use? Oh man, trying to figure it out. So that trickled down all the way to high school, but I even got into the culture of getting my hair cut every 3 days. Me and my friend James Sanchez, all these names are coming up now.
Yeah.
But I would go to his house, we'd use a Mach 3, and we would razor the sides of our heads, and sometimes we would cut our heads, and then we would fade out that line with the clipper in the bathroom. And we would do that on a Sunday night before school. And then he called me up one day, and he was just like, it was a Wednesday. He's like, "Can you cut my hair again?" I said, "You just got your hair cut." He was like, "But I want to be fresh." I'm like, then I kind of got into it because he just loved being fresh, and I was like, "Oh shoot, I want to be fresh too." So we just cut each other's hair every 3 days. Again, I was just a little bit more serious in terms of taking on barbering and saying I was a barber, where they would do it for themselves and maybe, me and him, but after that, brothers, but not reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'll cut your hair for $5 or whatever." So that's high school.
Yeah.
Man. Of course, even my brothers, I would cut their hair all the time, practicing fades, techniques. There was no videos either. I mean, you had a cassette tape or a VCR tape. It's a wall one, and then you can watch it, and you're like, I don't know if I care to do that haircut. Man, I don't even know. Was there internet? There was internet.
Yeah,
it was like 56K
internet,
or something.
But
right?
it wasn't as accessible as like now. It's literally just in our hands. So. And I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think back then, like, how would I even try? I didn't go. One of my friends took me to a barber shop, and I didn't watch. I was like so intimidated going into a black barber shop downtown Vallejo. I was like, "Ooh, I'm not gonna get a haircut," but I'm watching my friend get a haircut. But I kind of knew that I was uncomfortable. I didn't like that.
Yes.
But now I kind of understand why I like making people feel comfortable.
I like that.
So going back to that, and then what is it? After high school, everybody went to community college or college. I wasn't always decided what I wanted to do. People are like, "You should be a barber," blah blah blah. I said, "I don't know. Was there a school?" I met one guy named Alex Lago. He was like, "I own a shop in Benicia. I went to beauty school." All right, let me go to beauty school. So I went to beauty school right after high school. And at that time, I was cutting all my friends, everyone kind of in the neighborhood, going into the garage at my mom's house. So that became the barbershop first. So I had this whole culture and people coming to my garage, and that was a barbershop. I have a wall, that's the garage wall. Everyone signed it, like everyone from like 6th grade all the way to like maybe when I was 22. Then beauty school happened. I realized that I didn't really want to be a beautician or a cosmetologist. I was like, the conversations with women were a lot different for me talking to guys and how I can connect. Where it was women, the culture was you were trying to get at them, and I was 18, so that's what I was doing, and I didn't take it serious. And then finished beauty school, but I didn't take the board. So I didn't get my cosmetology license, and then I didn't know if I was going to continue barbering. So I decided to go back to community college, went to Solano for like 2 years.
Solano.
Everybody went there. Still cutting hair in my garage. It was still busy. And then there's a point where I couldn't pass statistics for like 4 years.
Fuck that class.
Yeah. And so I stood up at the very beginning of class when the teacher was reading the syllabus. I looked around and I got up and I said, "I don't think I'm going to do this."
Yeah.
All right, I'm out. And then I just walked out, and I just decided then I'm going to be a barber. I have to figure this out. I knew that there was a barber college in Fairfield over here called Duluth, and a couple of friends were going to that barber college already. And then I was also working at the Fairfield Mall, at Spencer's. So weird.
You were working at Spencer's?
Yeah, dude. I was a key holder.
You know what? Now that you're saying, I know for a fact we've crossed paths. We just didn't realize it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, I think a lot of the culture back then, you had to know somebody opposed to just like finding out who people were. Yeah, and then after that, I decided that I wanted to go work at J&J's. I went to start going to the school over here, and then after that, I went to J&J's and I said, I brought me and my friend Ed, who I was barbering. A lot of my friends were going to him too. We went there and I said, "Well, can I work here?" And he was like, "Do you have your license?" I said, "No, not yet, but I'll probably get it in like 3 months because I already finished one school and you only have to do so many hours at barber school." And after that, yeah, that was my like start at the barbershop was J&J's. Smelled like menudo and lumpia when I first got there.
Yeah.
But I loved it because it felt like home. And you know, John is his name, John and Jess. They really took me in and was like, okay, like would love to see you cut. But I was not in a bad way, but I was always after the owner's heads. I was like, you're cutting hair, you're cutting this much hair, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it just as fast, I'm gonna do it just as good, but I'm also gonna learn. But that was just my motivation to be like, I gotta figure this out, because there wasn't really Filipino barbers. Like, I didn't know any, you know, and those were the OGs of it. And they were military barbers. They would cut fast. They spoke Tagalog. I call them native Filipinos. I think I'm going off in a little tangent.
No,
not
it's okay.
tangent, but I don't like using the word fob anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's a very derogatory type of term now. So I say native Filipinos.
I like that.
And I think people should know that. You know, I think you say it, but a lot of the times it's when the roles are reversed. You ever try going to the Philippines? And they,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
they're not calling you a fob, but they're
Yeah.
going to be like, you ungrateful motherfucker, or
Yeah.
like you spoiled something, you know? And so I really, I just care.
Yeah,
You know?
it's funny you bring that up because I had a guest on yesterday. He was an older Filipino, and he's actually from Delano.
What's that?
You know, the historic Filipino town in mid California, in like middle California. Basically, it's a town where this guy named Larry Leong, he walked alongside Cesar Chavez during the revolution.
Oh, shoot.
And it wasn't just like the Hispanics; it was Filipinos and Hispanics that kind of did that whole like march and the change of everything.
I've seen it in a book before.
Yeah, and they made a
Yeah.
movie about it. And there was Filipino, but he's from that town. And we were talking about the word fob and how it affected him growing up as a Filipino boy in Stockton and there. So definitely, you know, back then you could throw it around, but it always felt derogatory towards him. So
See, I think that's and there was always separation, and I didn't really understand why. I mean, you wanted to be the cool guy, cool Filipinos or American Filipinos, but the moment you really don't know anything about your culture, it's like
yeah,
you're it's ignorant.
no, I'm with you.
Yeah. So they gave me my first opportunity. I was there for like 5 years, man, and I loved it. It taught me a lot about how the business works a little bit. Being in a business opposed to my garage. Like, there was a point I was so busy in my garage, I think my neighbors were like, he's running a business there. And so, yeah, so like the city, like a city official came through and
No way.
yeah, and they were like, "Are you running a business?" I said, "No, I'm just cutting kids in the neighborhood." And at that time, I just knew I couldn't run a business at my mom's garage. So like it was almost like I was dealing drugs because it was
That's
so.
probably what they did say.
Yeah,
They probably thought you were selling drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I had everybody over there. It's just, it was fun, man. I loved it in the garage, and that's because I started in that where it's like still a one-on-one thing. There wasn't six chairs here. It was just me and the person. I really learned to get to know people and fall in love with barbering that way, opposed to it just being the haircut. I really had to get to know the person and build a relationship and just learn why barbering is a passion for me. You know, I learned that I liked it, I loved it, and it became a passion. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I explain something like that is I liked cutting hair because it brought me money. I got to pay for things. I made a name for myself. I loved it because it became a career. I got to, provide for myself. I got to do all these things. I got to just kind of become a man through it. And then I learned it was a passion when I would just do it for free. Like love, passion is how I kind of figured that out. I made that up when I was in the Philippines, when I was like in a Jeep or something.
Nice.
Why is this a passion? Well, if you take all that away, would I still do it? Like, hell yeah. So, if I can barter and there was no currency, I would do that to get everything else. But I just have to convince people that getting a haircut is a thing still. Like, do you care if, But
yeah.
I'd hope so.
Why do you think you were able to realize that at such a young age? And I ask that because I'll talk to a lot of people, and I like to talk to them about passion and within their career. And there's people 20 years older than us, and they still haven't figured out what their passion is. And then I'll talk to some people who are in our age group, and they're like, you know what? I don't even know what my passion is. Like, for you, why do you think you were able to figure it out so early?
A lot of what it did for me, I think I know that, but I kind of take all the other things where I like and I love it, and it's like, well, other things can do that for me, and I can, like, without the money, without the popularity, without certain things, like if I just had the clipper in itself, like, and it made people feel a certain way, I can give back that way, then I was like, it still fulfills my soul. I'm like, like, yep, okay, I could.
And that's so important.
Yeah,
it fulfills your soul, because I feel the same way when I'm, cooking for people.
For sure. Yeah. But then I think the great thing about what we do is we learn to integrate the passion and then the business together, and then finding that perfect balance where you don't lose, okay, well, am I just more of a businessman? I'm more passionate about this, and then you lose the passion, and it's just, the goal is to find that balance.
Yes.
But now if I think about it, how did I really come up with that is when me and my wife did a, what is it called? We just served in the Philippines.
You a mission? Did you do that?
Not really a mission. I think that was, my wife was a missions, but it was when we took a sabbatical to the Philippines after I left LA, before I moved back to the Bay.
Okay.
And the goal was just to serve the Philippines, and what we ended up doing is connecting with a bunch of barbershops, and I just wanted to cut like kids. So they reached out to an orphanage, and I was able to team up with a barbershop over there, cut, maybe, well, there was like 30 kids, and then there was maybe 6 barbers or 4 barbers of us, and then we were just able to serve and cut. I didn't get anything from it. It's just like I have to give this back somehow.
Yeah.
Work with native Filipinos, cut kids in an orphanage, and then after that my wife would like play games and teach, because she's a teacher, and at that point I was still just fulfilled as if I'm like cutting hair in America. It was kind of the same thing, just giving.
That's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope.
So yeah, that's when I kind of figured it out. I think it was during the drive after or something.
Yeah,
like, this is it.
How long were you out there doing that?
Oh man, so I left LA like somewhere in, I want to say like October, November, but we left in January, February, March, April. So we were out there for 4 months in Southeast Asia. How about that? I think not in the Philippines, but we spent the majority of our time in the Philippines. So Philippines, I did a job in Taiwan for like 3 weeks to a month. I taught out there. It was so odd, but it was so tight, because originally I have a friend in Taiwan that barbered, because he's seen my like Hypebeast video that I did. Were you familiar with that? Did you ever watch it?
No, I'll look it up right away after this though.
See, I guess that's why I'm shocked. I'm like, I'm thinking everybody saw that video, like, oh man, I think everyone saw it, but no, Hypebeast did a 6-minute documentary on me.
Okay, you know what? Never mind. I'm sorry. I have seen it. Yes, okay. I have seen it. Yep, I know exactly.
All right.
Yep.
So the dope thing about that video was I was thinking it was just gonna, again, I'm pretty sure a lot of people watched it, but I feel like the only people who admitted they watched it are the people from the Bay.
Okay.
The Philippines, and a little touch of like Taiwan, and of course barbers are out there, but in terms of people who admit and say like they watched it and they would actually say something and say, dude, like I see the video, are just those 3 people. But everybody else, they're just like, nah, or oh yeah, I kind of see it, oh yeah, they brush it off, and I'm like, that's a fucking big deal, dude. Yeah. Like, oh, that was so tight.
Yeah.
I still geek off out of it,
No, you bring me back now. I totally remember, and now I know. That's literally how I found out about you. It's the Hypebeast video.
Yeah.
Duh.
So that's that was it. that's what then took my career off at that point. But there's still a big gap in there somewhere. I can tell a story, but where am I at? Yeah,
Philippines. Or teaching in Taiwan.
Teaching in Taiwan. So I did a seminar prior, a year before, with my Taiwanese friends. That they just wanted to host a barbering seminar because they wanted to introduce Western barbering to Southeast Asia barbering, because it's not there. He was into hip hop, sneakers, just the culture. He even knew like Bay music, and I was like, and he spoke really good English. His name is Willie, but he calls himself Weedley. He smokes a lot of weed.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
He's hella tight though. He's just like, he wanted to know so much about the Western culture in terms of barbering too. I think he tried so many other things, and I think he's like 3-4 years younger than me. But he reached out on Instagram and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna hold a seminar in Taiwan. We reached out a couple barbers, but we want you to come." And I was like, "All right, how are we gonna do this?" They were just like, "Well, how much do you charge?" And I didn't know. I was just like, shoot, but this would be tight if I did it. So we worked out something. I was there, and we became really, really good friends. Like, he can communicate with me. He can talk English. But when I'm up there speaking, and like I'm just kind of picturing it now, it's like a bunch of stylists. That's what they were. There was no barbers. And I had the mic, and I'm teaching, but I have a translator because I don't speak English either. So I'm speaking, but it's like I'm speaking out of passion. I'm speaking fast, and how are they going to translate that? So I had to learn how to kind of tone it down and speak a little slower so that they can translate a little bit of what I'm talking about. And then a year later, he invited me back, and he met another guy who was in the actual the salon industry in Asia, and they toured me from the top of Taiwan, the middle of Taiwan, to the bottom of Taiwan, all the way back up. And I hosted like maybe five seminars or whatever.
Nice.
It was tight. I took my wife with me, and that paid for a trip for me to go to Japan. So we did Philippines, Taiwan, back to the Philippines, Japan, and then back to the Bay.
That's dope.
Yeah. The goal was for me to somehow land a job in the Philippines. As some type of barber instructor or whatever. I connected with these guys who ran a barber shop and a sneaker store. It's like a Foot Locker and a barber shop mashed together. It's pretty tight. It's called Titan. Okay. And they take care of all the PBA players, and they host a lot of the NBA things and stuff like that. So I got cool with them, and unfortunately it didn't work out, but I was geeked out. I still taught for them, and I cut in their shop for a little bit, got to know some barbers, and I just did a lot of like networking out in the Philippines, and still to this day my like heart is there.
Yeah.
And so that was my whole kind of Southeast Asia journey in terms of barbering.
That's dope. I always talk to my wife, because my wife she's from the Philippines. She didn't get here to the States until she was like 18.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so definitely her home is the Philippines, and when we finally went there together for the first time in 2014, it was our honeymoon.
Oh wow!
I told her, I was like, I want to try it out here. I want to live here. Oh yeah, and she'll laugh at me because I'm just this American boy that doesn't know, I've been in California my whole life. Yeah. I've done some traveling, but just not like lived outside of like California. So, and till this day, like I'm telling her, I was like, I want to give it a shot. We can always come back. So, do you feel like that 4 months just there, would it be like, was it enough to kind of see if you could like make a life out there? Because like you said, you wanted to have a barbershop there and everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to do something there. I didn't know if I wanted a barbershop. Okay. I definitely wanted to just teach and give.
Yeah.
And educate. So it was enough time.
Yeah.
Because I was moving. Like, I didn't have stuff to, if it wasn't vacation, then it's like, what am I doing with my time?
Yeah.
So I had to, hit people up on Instagram, try to make meetings. I mean, I had like probably like 10 meetings there trying to figure out things of where I could fit and what actually would work. And they're even still generous enough to still like, fund me certain things, because But what it came about is just if I compare it, like, am I maximizing what I could do now in the Philippines? Didn't have a kid yet. Me and my wife were like, okay, she can teach and I can do this. But it's almost like the lifestyle that you want to live more so than the money.
Yes.
Like, did I want to, just live in a high-rise building? Yes, food would still be cheap. The amount of money that you would, make, you would be able to live a certain lifestyle. But I don't know if I wouldn't be able to save. I wouldn't be able to help and provide anything I needed to here and set up anything here. It would literally just to live more of a luxury lifestyle in the Philippines.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we kind of figured it out. We weighed it out, and we were like, man, like, it would be tight, but we have more opportunity in the States.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Question for you though, like, did you go to the Philippines?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've been a few times. But the longest I've stayed every time was a month. So
yeah.
2010, 2014. Yeah.
See, but that's good.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, back in 2014, it was kind of like what you were saying, like, live in a high-rise building, live this like luxurious life. That's what it was. I was like 25, and I was like, I think I could do this. Just kind of invest in real estate. But now, after Carl and I have been able to kind of do what we've done with the restaurants and everything, we want to open up a school and we want to give back. So I think it's kind of amazing that I'm talking to you here because you actually got to do that already and kind of, do something for the people.
Yeah.
So it's not like our like end all be all, but like we know that this is something we want to do as soon as we're able. We want to open up a school and we want to teach what we know. And I think right now our strongest trait is like entrepreneurship, running a business, and
nice.
We want to just share all of that. I'm not saying I'm super good at it, but I just want to share my story, and I know along the way we can teach. And
yeah,
we're both from Pampanga, so we want to put it there. Oh. Now, I don't know where we would begin.
In terms of school, like you guys would just teach like entrepreneurship, or more so like trade?
Being like a naive person, of how to run a school, yeah, that's what we would do.
Yeah. I
don't know if there's an entrepreneurship school or maybe it'd be like a business school. And I'm obviously talking to the right person because your wife's a teacher.
Yeah, but to me, it's just, I think it's a lot of networking. There's just a lot of people that do certain things. It's just, I guess, something that's like, I hate to say wrong, but something that's kind of like absent in our Filipino American culture is the fact that people actually are willing to find that person to help that person without expecting anything back.
Yeah, that comes up a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
And that's for sure. Like we want to have a school, and it's going to be a nonprofit. This is just really, I don't know what's the word. It's really just to help people.
Tight.
Because that's what I feel like personally. I've been so lucky, or some people say blessed in this life, that like it almost feels wrong to not want to give back and help. You know what I mean?
That's dope, man, because it just shows the type of person you really are, Like, after it's all said and done, yeah, I guess we dream of Ferraris, we dream of big houses, we dream of those things, but then when you kind of get to a point where it's like, dang, like, okay, well, if I don't get that, but, like, am I content, am I happy, am I grateful, like, giving back, it always seems to find its way back to make sure, but tapping into it and being like, okay, you say you want to give back, are you going to give back?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How are you going to do that, So it was always a challenge for me to do so that's why I always say that it's like my heart is in the Philippines. I started a nonprofit. I tried to.
Oh, man.
It's still up and running. It's just, I don't know how to do it. I think that's the thing. It's like I just put it together because I wanted to be a part of something. I don't know if you're following me at that point. It was almost 3 years ago. It was probably one of the craziest things I've ever did. But basically, Oracle, Warriors. I was super into the whole like Filipino Heritage Nights when I was younger. Like, oh shoot, the Warriors are doing a Filipino Heritage Night. And so before they left Oracle, I was like, I want to like do something like Filipino Heritage Night, and it was the last Filipino Heritage Night for the Warriors. And I decided like I want to figure out how I can be involved. So I, talked to a few people. My friend Christian who works there, and then he connected me with the event manager. And she was like, "What do you want to do?"
Was her name Gabby?
No,
okay.
Maria.
Okay.
I think Gabby could have been somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I think she was pregnant or something.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah.
Yep. Because if she was pregnant,
Wow.
I think I was supposed to talk to her, but they I guess detoured me to Maria.
Oh, okay.
And so she was like, "Well, you have to have an organization." I said, "All right." Well, I started the National Filipinos Barbers Association, and me and my wife, it's something me and her I talked about, and she was just like, "Yeah." Like, I shoot her so many ideas, like my wife, and
Likewise.
There's some that she's just like, all right, and then there's this one, she's just like, yeah, I believe in it, but she's like, you have to put a lot of work into it if you really want to do this. So what I ended up doing is we gathered 50 barbers from the Bay Area, and before the game, we just gave free haircuts.
Nice.
Yep. And I had to, start the whole little business thing, and got some tents, got a bunch of barbers just willing to be out there. The crazy thing was, it was like, it hailed that day. It was outside, and so there was a lot of things where I shouldn't have done it. But I'm glad we did, is because I got to see all the barbers, and a lot of barbers that supported me during my whole cutting athletes phase.
Yes.
And I got to kind of work with them and see, a lot of the support and pride of being a Filipino American barber. But the goal is really just to figure out ways to support the Philippines through barbers out here or anybody out there. So it's 3 years now that I've done that event, and I still want to.
Yeah.
So I just recently reached out to some barbers in the Philippines, and they hit COVID a different way, so they can't move in the Philippines.
Yes.
So I talked to them, and I'm just gonna really try to figure out a way that I can help. They need clippers, they need funds, they need certain things. So I gotta figure out.
Dude, are you familiar with Jason Castro? He's a PBA player. He plays for Talk and Text.
I maybe follow him, but
Yeah. So he's considered like the Stephen Curry of the Philippines, but he's a little older now. But he's our age. He's not older. But anyways,
where's he from?
He's from Pampanga as well.
Okay.
Carla's cousin.
Oh, type.
So he actually, don't quote me on this, especially if you're listening, but he tried to open up his own barbershop because he's very entrepreneur himself.
Yeah.
He's still active in the PBA, but he tried to open up a barbershop, but I think it was a little early because he's half black and half Filipino, but he's from there. But he gets haircuts like how Filipinos get haircuts in California.
For sure.
But, I think when he opened it up, it was still like a lot of Justin Bieber and K-pop stuff.
Yeah.
So he was just too soon, but. Anyways, like we're cool with that guy, man. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to connect you if you're still looking for people to meet.
All the time.
But,
I mean, the Hooper culture out there. There's a couple people from the Bay Area too that I met when I was over there, and so it's cool to continue to meet people, and I like having it organic.
Yeah.
So if it does happen, man, that'd be tight, and I would love to just figure out ways to do so, because not only do I want to get with the people who are, again, like the athletes and the people who are well known, I want to get to the provinces, and I want to like see how I can help that way, and the barbering culture there is, everyone's so highlighted. There is that culture of people that's on Instagram and Facebook, but there also is a huge population of the people that they just do it to provide.
Yeah.
So I want to tap into both. That's what I'm learning about what I'm doing is, it's not just the people who are out there, it's the people who aren't out there. So
That's like the most perplexing thing to me. And every time I go,
word. What does that mean?
It's puzzling.
Yep.
It's
Cool.
puzzling. Sorry. Yeah.
No.
It's perplexing word.
There's a couple words I'm still like, I'm putting it together as you talk to me. I'm like, all right, cool.
Oh, trust me. I'll say some words on here and I'll look at what it means after. And like, I got it right. But the most perplexing thing to me, and every time I go back, is how there's no gray area in that country. You could literally just be in the middle, in the heart of Manila. You're in this luxury condo, walk out that place, and then you're just in the ghetto.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's no gray area. Like, there's not much of a middle class. And that was kind of like the early roots of me thinking, like, thinking like, dude, I'm so blessed, I'm so lucky, I need to do something, not just send a box every month.
Yeah.
There's more you can do.
Absolutely.
So, and I think it's really cool that you're doing that. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What makes you such a go-getter? Like, not everybody. There's. I feel like there's more people than like you, or excuse me. What am I trying to say? There's more people who would just second guess themselves and maybe just say, "Nah, it would never work." Where, for example, you said like, "I'm just gonna go ahead and invite 50 barbers and I'm gonna start a nonprofit." You know what I mean? Like with no second thought. Like,
I mean, if I can really dig a little deeper, it's faith. To be honest, it's a lot of faith. I do, trust God with what I do. I dedicate what I do to the Lord, and I truly believe that if I do it to serve Him and the way He really sees me doing it, then I don't have anything to worry about. Before, I used to do it for me, like so much for me. I used to do it for the popularity. I used to do it for the fame. I used to do it for the money. I used to do it for the girls. I used to do it for the cars. I used to do all that. And then there was a switch, and it came because understanding who Jesus was through my brothers early on, but then my wife, when she came along, she helped me understand, like, what are you really doing this for? You know what I mean? It wasn't really impressive to her that I barbered and stuff like that, but she was impressed that I had a gift. But she was almost like, well, you believe in God, but you don't, like, what do you do this for? So she gave me a book called Purpose Driven Life, and that was one of the first books I've ever read. And after that, I kind of rededicated like what I do and how I do it to the Lord. And because of that, I've seen my career change. I used to say it was is it really because of my talents and I'm really that good? Hell no. I don't think so. I'm just a Filipino from Vallejo. So how does that really happen? So that's how I really kind of move now, is if I know it's really aligned with not what JayR and what he wants and what he desires in his heart, but if it's aligned with what the Lord wants and what God wants, and I'm a part of it, then I'm going. Shoot, this like touches a little bit more because like, no way in hell does a Filipino barber from Vallejo that's 25, I don't know how old I was, get to cut Stephen Curry in his prime, like his glory years. Hell no. I'm like, that was me? Hell no, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And so the more and more I think about that and I reflect on that, it's not like, oh, I did it, that's hella tight, JayR, cool. It's like, how? I'll look back and I'd be like, God, no way. When I rededicated that and I'm really, really trying to practice that, I think God blessed me in a way that no, I could never do that again. I mean, not to say anybody can't do it again, but in terms of like, everybody knows what it was like when Stephen Curry was like, it was crazy. And so I got a little bit of that. And because of that, what can't I do if God has my back?
Yes, sir. So, I want to be candid with you and I've been trying to avoid this topic because I've talked about it like so much on this podcast, because I'm going through this. If I can be honest with you, I'm going through this journey in my life with regards to my religion, and sometimes I feel like my listeners are like sick of it because I bring it up all the time. And like, I was raised Catholic, I'm still Catholic, and something happened in 2018. I lost somebody.
Oh, wow.
And it changed my perspective on a lot of things, and maybe it sounds silly, but it made me just kind of like take a step back on everything and realize, like, dude, like, what's the point of all this? Or why am I wasting my time just grinding in this kitchen when I should just be living life to the fullest? And it led me to think, like, who is God? Now, I definitely believe in God. I know for a fact, and I agree with you 100%, like, it is because of our Creator why we are lucky enough to be sitting here today.
For sure.
But my question, this journey that I'm on, is trying to figure out who He is, he or she, what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I've asked a couple guests, because they'll kind of naturally bring up their faith as well. And what makes you so sure? It's called faith. you have faith, right? But
yeah, ooh, that's a good
just
one. What makes me so sure?
I know it's such a hard question, but like, we all have these life-changing moments, and I'm still dealing with it today. Like, just I think about it a lot, man.
That's good.
Yeah,
I think that's.
So excuse me if I'm being too candid, dude. My bad.
I love this, dude. This is what I do. Like, no, I think it's dope. I think it's the fact that you are curious and you're wanting to. You know what I mean? What was the question again? What makes me sure?
What makes you so sure? Like, cause and my wife she's devout, and she laughs at me sometimes because she's like schooled, and she handed me the Bible, and she's like, you've never read the Bible before, so she handed me, and I started reading it. Yeah. I've read the Bible, never like with all these questions in my head. And so I'm reading through this Bible. I'm still in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
I'm just like looking at everything differently now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, just what makes you so sure that, for example, as we all know, you got to cut Stephen Curry's hair. Mm-hmm. If you're asking me, it's because you're dope at barbering.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, it's because of God.
I do think it's because of God. I think it's just in terms of placing me where he wants to place me. I've had a lot of spiritual battles. I had a lot of visions. I've had a lot of ideas. But one thing's for sure, whether it was my mom praying for me, my brothers praying for me, them introducing me to Christianity is different. I grew up Catholic. My mom is still a devoted Catholic, and I love her to death, and she taught me so much still through faith in that too. Christian Catholic, I think it's just your relationship with God is what really makes it that. And when it's you have a thought about it, like, okay, well, there's God, but more importantly is the relationship you have with him. Are you just trying to, again, figure it out? That's cool too. God wants you to know who he is. But I think the relationship that you have, like, it's hard is because it's not tangible. He's not there. You can't be like, hey, but you can actually talk to him. There's a way to, but you have to learn how, right? And so I think at a young age, I got introduced when I was 13, that just praying, talking to him, reading about him, looking at things from a different lens of how that happened. I think the way my life played out, now when I go dissect it in terms of my life, I honestly, when I hit like maybe 29, maybe when I got married, I look back on my life and I go, I've literally done everything I've ever wanted to do, I think. Everything.
Yeah.
Possibly bought everything I could possibly bought, whatever I wanted to. And I'm like, and God's still like, and that's the thing, is God's still tapping. It's like, nothing in this world is going to fulfill you. But if I want to say, don't quote me on any of this in terms of what God is telling, like in the Bible or whatever, but in terms of but live the life that I called for you, because I'm still going to give you everything, because he already knows what I guess our heart desires. But when you really seek it in terms of really like asking God and living it the way, in terms of righteousness, I want to say, or even that path of just sharing who God is, he blesses you in such an amazing way. And I can only, that's the only answer I really have.
Yeah.
Because I think if you say, okay, well, you said, well, you cut Stephen Curry because you're a dope person. No. I could have cut his hair once and said, cool, here's an Instagram picture, I cut Stephen Curry once. But again, I bring it back to God, is like, I had a conversation with him. And I told him, I said, I shouldn't be cutting your hair right now. And this was the first time I'm cutting his hair. He stopped. He was like, what do you mean? I said, I think this is a divine appointment from God. I know about your faith. I don't think you even know about mine. But I really think God put us together here to cut your hair. And he was just, I'm cutting his hair. He's like this. And I'm cutting his hair behind him. And I'm telling him this stuff. He's on his phone. And he puts his phone down. And he looks at me. And he goes, tight, dope. And then he puts his hand out. And we shake. And at that point, I knew I was his barber. I didn't just cut his hair once.
Yeah. So
when those types of things happen, and it's kind of, I guess, I hate using the word organic, but
Use it, man. I love that word.
I think because it became that way, me and him was able to build a relationship. Not because I was a dope barber, not because he was a dope basketball player, is because we shared this understanding of who God is, just at that very moment.
And so that was the first haircut. You said that.
Yeah.
Man, I love that, dude.
Because I couldn't explain it. Like, my emotions were I wasn't just this calm, really cool, like, yeah, man, I'm freaking JayR, I'm dope at cutting hair, I'm gonna cut your hair. No, I was freaking geeking out. I was sweating. I'm sweating now. I'm just like, I don't even know how this is happening. Like, you're on your rise in your career, and I had this opportunity to cut your hair. And I was cutting his hair because I was Chris Paul's barber at the time. And he put me on set in terms of doing the commercials for State Farm. He was a part of those commercials, and then I had to take care of him one day. And when I saw him on a call sheet, I was like, oh, shoot. I called my brother right away. I'm like, I'm cutting Stephen Curry's hair tomorrow. And I geek out. And so I'm with him for 24 hours. I get on set 6 o'clock in the morning. He gets there at 8. And I cut his hair in the morning, or a little bit of it, and then we're doing the commercial. All I'm doing is brushing his hair all day. Brushing and not cutting. And then I think at the end of the 2 days, I finally have to like cut his hair the way he wants to. And I think that's when I had the conversation with him, when the whole like commercial thing was done. And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I have no other way to explain any of that except faith. But
and I think that's like the most fucked up thing, dude, on my part, is because it's like I almost feel the same thing, or I feel the same way because I've been able to do all these things and buy all of these things, and yet like, here I am still fucking like questioning like I just can't. I don't know, man. Maybe it's more of like the thing that happened, not God. It's just can't get over what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, when you lose someone, it's fucked up. You know, no matter what happens, we all die. But dude, you're just never prepared for something like that.
For sure.
You know,
and
so.
I'm like I can't explain any of that, and I can only, feel and have empathy for that. Because it's I don't know.
Yeah. So.
But I think I want to go back to that question and even try to, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you've ever actually talked to him and actually just really sat, because I really think my brother once told me, he says, if you really want God to reveal himself to you, ask him. Like literally ask.
Yeah.
Like, are you really truly, or you just want to answer? Like, hey, I'm here. No. But if you really are actually seeking it and really intentional about it, I don't think he's going to be like, nah, I'm cool. But if you really want answers and you're really intentional about it, just be serious about it. Because if he, as really as he is to me, I'd put whatever on it. You know what I mean? If you're really serious about it, like, and you really want to know, just ask in the way you know how. Private, whenever, alone, whatever. Just be like, God. Like, I know you're real, but in my heart, I want to be for sure. But ask.
Okay, you're the first person to say that.
Because I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
But I think, people are saying, read the Bible, do these things. But my older brother told me, he's like, if you really want God to really just.
That's probably the best advice I've ever got so far on my journey that I've come to go on right now.
That's cool, man.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
And sometimes things are just, and I know I'm overcomplicating things, but like creating this podcast to talk about God and stuff.
You talk about everything.
Yeah.
I think it's just tight. I love it.
No, real talk, man. I really appreciate that, brother. I really do, man. Because
for sure,
hitting home, man. Because it could be that simple, and I'm just being a bitch and not really asking because I know the answer already.
Yeah. So, and then at that point, hopefully it grows, and you need community. If you ever need anything, I'm there to answer any questions or do as much as I can to help. If I don't have the answer, then I'll ask someone to figure out if you're really serious about it. Just
oh, I am.
Yeah.
I talk about it way too much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it okay if I bring it back to to Chris Paul? How did it happen, dude? So you were in LA at the time, and then you're just like, oh, I'm going to cut Chris Paul's hair.
No, I didn't have it like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish, but no. I banked on going to LA on a relationship that I had with a guy I was cutting at St. Pat's and his family, because they had relationship. I think the dad was like a financial advisor for a lot of athletes. No, this is
Thank you.
There you go. He was a financial advisor for a lot of athletes, and I was cutting his son, and I was friends with like the sister. So it was a son and like 3 sisters. It was the Reed family, and I can't thank them enough. But they really put me on in terms of who my first athlete was. So when I got there, Ashley was assisting DeAndre Jordan. I think it was his rookie year or something, or maybe his second year. But he needed a haircut, and she knew that I used to cut her little brother, or I was cutting her little brother at the time. And whenever that opportunity came, she was like, can you come to his apartment and cut his hair? I didn't know how much to charge. I didn't know any of that. I just know I needed to do it. And if I did it right and I just showed I can do something, could open a door. And then after that, I was cutting his hair every week. This was 1 month, maybe like 1 month of me being in LA. Because I was working at Legends of Barbershop. But even then, that played a part in my career as well, in terms of the Heights Beast video. So I can go into that a little later too. Yeah, so I cut DeAndre Jordan's hair. And again, Bay Area barbering is completely different from LA barbering, New York barbering, Chicago, Miami, all of that. My goal was really to be a barber in all those major cities. That was my original goal. That's what I wanted to do, somehow, some way. So after that happened, he goes to practice or whatever, 3-4 games, and then he's like, yo, Chris wants you to cut his hair. I said, Chris, who? He was like, Chris Paul, he wants you to cut his hair for the game tomorrow. I'm just like casual, and I'm like, okay, cool. Just give him my number. I'll text him, and then I'll get to him. Whatever. I'll make sure to take care of him. And same thing I do every single time I'm about to cut somebody else's hair. I call my brother Steve, and I'm like, dude, I'm about to cut Chris Paul's hair, bro. Like, oh shit. And then me and him geek out for like a whole like 10 minutes. I'm waiting for his call. Like DeAndre told me like maybe like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm waiting all day at the barbershop, whatever. And he hits me at like, I don't know, 9 p.m. He's like, yo, Jay. I'm like, what's up, man? Like, he's like, yo, can you still cut my hair? It's my son and my dad, or maybe it's just him. I don't know. And it was before a Laker game. It was Clippers versus Lakers type of thing. And so I get to his house at like maybe 10 or something. I'm still like geeked out, like, dude. And then cut his hair, and after that, I don't know, I established enough to be his barber. So not only was I going to his house every week, I'm going to DeAndre's house every week, cutting their hair early in the morning, before games, after practice, or whatever, just being on call. And I wasn't busy at all. I was getting busy at the barbershop, but I could even go into that later too. I was the only Filipino in a black barbershop full of 10 people. It was crazy. But I learned a lot in there. And so that was a domino effect. So DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, then it goes Doc Rivers when he becomes coach. Austin, Matt Barnes, Drew Bledsoe.
So you were just cutting up all the Clippers, dude.
Yeah.
You're clipping up all the Clippers.
For sure. That was like a thing. And, and I don't think, cutting athletes and stuff like that was a thing yet. I think that's why it was so big, is because I'd post one, DeAndre Jordan, and, people from my small following was like, dude, like he's cutting something. And I could feel it. Mm-hmm. And then when it's Chris Paul, it's a different thing. DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, it's different. But then again, they're both all-stars now. But they were always so willing to just kind of put me on in that sense, and learning that culture of how to do that. And there was only so many people who were actually doing that at the time. Yeah. Filipino named Vince the barber, who's also in LA. I noticed he was doing things like that too. But we're just trying to figure it out at the time. It wasn't a thing. And so Blake Griffin came after that.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then so within that time was, you gotta think about it. It's, if I could just name the main players, it would be DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and Doc Rivers. And then also at that time, I'm cutting Steph now. Yeah. So I'm trying to balance being a a Warrior fan, loyal to the soil, but being a supporter of the Clippers. Never wear a Clippers jersey. I had a Clippers hat. During that time too, if people know hoop, like that was like, I don't fuck with the Clippers. I'm a Dubs fan. I'm over here trying to battle it and trying to work it. And there's a lot of decisions I made emotionally, irresponsibly, where I knew it tarnished my relationship with certain people.
Really?
Yeah. And I didn't really know how to balance that. That's because I didn't have mentorship. I was always so emotional. I didn't really know how to deal with a lot of things. And so I would just react, which was probably the thing I didn't know. But I mean, I learned now. But not to say I don't communicate with those people anymore, but I know if I seen them, I could say hi. But the only person I know I have super strong relationship is still Steph. But I still have their numbers and stuff like that. But I'm not the type to just text them just because.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But when the time is right or when I actually feel it, I kind of learn how to do that. And I think in terms of even the barbering world is like, as much as everyone thinks they're gonna know what they're gonna do, you don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I want to teach stuff like that. I don't really care. I would teach barbering, obviously, to people in Taiwan, the Philippines, Western barbering that way. But in terms of what I need to teach in the Bay Area and United States and people here is how to balance certain stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I relate to that. Not relate, but I totally feel you because, you said there were some things that happened along the way because you didn't have a mentor.
Yeah.
You could kind of just be that bridge.
For sure.
So when that person or whoever it may be gets to that point, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
And you're that person. I mean, I think we're like-minded in that sense. You want to put on your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used to be so like, oh, I'm just, I want to teach everyone from Vallejo because I'm from Vallejo. I want to teach, Bay Area, but I realized that barbering. It's just barbers. Whoever really wants to learn. And I'm learning. I have a lot of, I guess expectation for myself. I was thinking, oh, well, if I go back to the Bay, like there's going to be a bunch of people wanting to know and figure out and, knocking at my door. But no, it's not like that. It's like who really cares? You know what I mean? But I also have to put it out there like I'm teaching or I'm really mentoring. I'm really trying to help this, industry in that sense is because I know I'm on Instagram. I know what people are teaching. I know what barbers are doing. But in terms of what do I know dear to my heart needs that I can give out? But a lot of that comes with a lot of transparency too. Like I have to tell them like a lot of things that I did wrong in order for them to understand what happens. Stuff with pricing, stuff with like, again, emotional roller coasters, customer service. Like, I mean, that's one thing that's just for sure is like, where do you get customer service? This is just speaking from a business. Where do you get customer service? Who teaches you customer service? Where do you get that from?
I went to college for business entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Very one customer service class.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as a barber, same thing. You go to barber school, they teach you about chemicals, they teach you about how to fade, they teach you about tools, but customer service?
That's smart.
Yeah. Like where does that come from, right? But then the number one thing when you go to business is like, man, customer service. Customer's always right. I don't know if that's the right way, but in terms of customer service. So what ends up happening in a lot of businesses, or at least barbering, it's like you graduate school, you get your license, and then you get this like customer service point, and then it's just inside of you. You got customer service automatically. You're the best one. Like, you know what I mean? Right. They want to go to me because I have the best customer service? Nah, hell nah. To be honest, I think barbers lack customer service.
Okay.
And because I did. I only knew customer services because I went to restaurants, right? So if I go to restaurants, I get customer service there,
Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing? Or you go into a store, customer service. And that's his extent. But in terms of when it deals with a customer who is unhappy, or when your schedules don't mix, or you double booked or some things like that, like how do you deal with that?
Yes.
A lot of the times it was emotional for me. Oh, I didn't mess up, you messed up. So now your tone changes, your face changes, whoa, aren't you a business? So these are the things that I want to teach in terms of when it comes to barbering. But I guess someone told me once, it's like, you might as well teach people. But I'm like, I only know barber analogy, right? But there's just a lot that I still want to give back in terms of that whole community, because I'm like, dude, like, it's not so much about me being the dopest barber. I don't think I'm the dopest barber. Or, excuse me, I don't think I'm the dopest hair cutter.
There you go.
But I do think I have a very good idea of what barbering is. There's a difference between barbering and there's a difference between someone who cuts hair.
Yeah.
I think you can say that too with cooking, right?
Yes.
There's a difference between a chef and someone who cooks really good.
Yep. I try. Yeah. There's a big difference between a home cook and a chef. But I got respect for home cooks, YouTube cooks. I got respect for them, but there's a difference between a chef and someone who cooks at home.
Ooh, I got another one. In terms of barbering, like, a lot of barbers say, I never put this out either, but in terms of saying that, a lot of barbers go, yeah, man, I love being a barber because I get to talk to people. You know, we share a lot of problems. It's like, I'm everything. I'm a psychiatrist.
I hear that a lot. Yeah.
No, you're not. You're not a psychiatrist, because that psychiatrist that really went to school for that stuff and being a psychiatrist, they hear you say that, they're like, you don't know half the things what a psychiatrist go through.
That's
so why does a barber say they're a psychiatrist? Because you hear someone dishing out their problems? To be honest, you're just learning how to be a better friend if you care. But you want to say a psychiatrist so it sounds more professional. So you can have people go like, yeah, man, that's fucking good. You're a psychiatrist, man. You listen to my problems and we talk about it. No. Are you giving the right advice? Are you giving it from your perspective? Are you just doing it because you say so? Are you just doing it so you can get money? Stop saying you're a psychiatrist, barber. You're a barber. So just say, I'm just trying to be a better friend. And this is a part of barbering. But when they just try to throw those words out like that, because I wouldn't like it if someone's just saying, oh yeah, look, I'm a barber too. Like, no, you're not, dude. Like, I'm a barber. I have so much passion into what I do. It's like, you cut hair, but like, to say you're an actual barber for the people who's been doing it for 10 years and to really take it serious, it's like, nah, oh yeah, I cut hair, I do this and I do that. I get it. That's entrepreneurship. There's like, you're getting in there. But when you take that title from someone else, I don't know if that's right.
Yeah. See, I struggle with the same thing, just internally, because, and these are only for the people who like think that just because you can whip up some adobo in your kitchen and, it's probably the best adobo
for sure.
I've ever tasted, but make that for 100 people. Make that for 100 people.
You feel me?
That's not going to be the best adobo. And the thing is, though, why I struggle with it, because I was that person.
Yeah.
I started off in the home, and I was lucky enough to kind of transition to a real chef. And what a chef is someone who builds menus.
Ooh, there you go.
You do inventory.
There you go. What else?
You sweep the floor.
Keep going. What else?
You fucking grind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was silly enough to think that when I was chefing up in my own kitchen, I was like being all fancy with the little tweezers. Mm-hmm. Man, that shit don't happen, dude.
Yeah.
It's not. So I feel you.
Yeah.
So I feel you, man. But I just can't be that person to tell you. I don't know. But you're right. There is a difference, man.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
So I'm not like, again, I'm not knocking it like all the way. I think people have to be a little bit more careful with what they say. Yeah. A lot of the times. Not just so they sound good.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of that. The two barbers I had here,
yeah,
I was like, dude, you're like a psychologist. That came from me, man. So I feel you. It's good like perspective to hear. Yeah. You're right. I agree with you.
Thank you. Yeah. That's cool, man. I appreciate it. And it's nothing wrong. Again, I think of these things as I go through barbering, more so like me just, okay, that's wrong. I just like, it hurts me saying that, Same thing with like celebrity barbering. Like, I don't think those two words should go together.
It's another thing, yeah. Dude, yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, I'm so glad I've been wanting to say this on this podcast for a long time, because like some of my homies, they look at like Bobby Flay or what's that dude with the blonde hair on Triple D? What's his name? Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
They look at him, they're like, dude, that's my favorite chef. I was like, no. That is not a chef. He's a celebrity. Don't get me wrong. If Food Network asked me to be on Food Network, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
I get it.
But those aren't chefs. They're not building menus. They're not running restaurants anymore. They're characters.
Exactly.
So I didn't mean to. I had to say that, dude.
That is, that's good. I think that's why I think again, I think we started off the podcast saying like there's a lot of things that chefs and barbers kind of get.
Yes, sir.
And if you value that just as much as I do, I get it, you know? There's just a lot of things that a barber and a celebrity have differences. You can be that. I get it. But to me, there's a select few that can be celebrity barbers. I don't like to take that title. I don't. I really don't. I understand that it's out there and it's put out there. And if people need to somewhat describe or put me in the box just to kind of put me in a category, I get it. But in terms of me just like going out there and saying I'm a celebrity barber, no. Hell no.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's how I viewed you before I started talking to you today.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
It's not that.
I think you're the most famous person I know.
That's dope, man. And I'm okay with I'm okay with being popular. I'm okay with being somewhat famous. But in terms of celebrity, again, choice of words.
Yeah.
It's just it's very like you mix it as a barber. You know what I mean? Do you want to cut celebrities or do you want to be a celebrity barber?
Yes. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? There's a difference.
It's a big
to
difference.
me.
Yeah.
And then going through LA and seeing how it functions and the way that happens, it's like if you don't really know and dissect on exactly what you want it to do and how you want it to be, and you know maybe I'm not sure how this is going, but at least the way I see things is barbers for sure they want to be that. That's just a goal to be like I want to cut celebrities and I want to do that, and I think it's great and I would love to mentor how to do that. But in terms of balancing how to be when that happens and not making sure you don't compromise who you are, because yeah, we live in a world where being famous, having followers and all that types of stuff, like people don't know how to balance that. You know, I struggled with it a lot. I think I always speak from my perspective, not just so much because I hate it because they're acting like a celebrity or something. I said, I was an asshole before.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of times I could have been an asshole.
Okay.
Just because I took that idea of what that could have been and I played it. There's times where I played the role and stuff like that, but did it make me feel good? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone's like, dude, like I'm happy. And like I know who you are. That's tight. Like there's times where I have too much going on, and I just brush them off. But
yeah.
If someone spent the time and was really like, dude, I really wanted to see you, I want to get cut and things like that, or I look up to you or whatever the case may be. You know, like a lot of my responses weren't like the way I wanted it to be. But because I've gotten so many poor responses from people, whether they're celebrities or people of influence, like I hated that. And I hated the way people used to move, and I'm just like, dude, then again, faith, that plays a part too, is because the way God sees me opposed to the way I saw myself is two different things. And so knowing who you are is very, very important in terms of when you become a barber. I always ask people, why you barber? Like, who are you? And then we put those two together so you know who you are. But you know, if you're just going into it blindly because you want to be cool and popularity and all that other weird stuff, it comes with it. But balancing it is very, very important because we're in a world today where you cut somebody or you serve somebody or whatever the case may be, you can be famous now in your own head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever put some thought in that? Like because of what you've done with the hypebeast thing, you've pretty much cut up all the Clippers and of course Stephen Curry.
Yeah.
Stephen Curry, like you've probably inspired a generation of, specifically Filipino barbers.
Yes.
And just young barbers alone.
Yeah.
They're like, man, I want to be like JayR. Have you put some thought into that?
Yeah, I did. I think that's why I'm very intentional about how I speak and what I'm putting out there.
Nice.
Because if it was during that time of like me doing it and then me trying to teach at the same time, I don't know if I would have helped a lot of barbers be the best version of themselves. I think I had to learn I had to get there. I had to feel it. I'd had to live it. I'd had to lose it. I had to go through a lot of battles. I had to heal from it. So there's a lot more. And then from this perspective of who I am now is time till I can now help the people who are really inspired, because maybe they were just inspired just because I cut them or I cut the celebrity. So they were just so intrigued with this person that they saw. But do they even really know me? Do they even care to know me? Or they just wanted to know how I got there? In a text message or in a DM.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be like, Jay, like, I'm really inspired by you. How did you start? Asking me questions like this. Building a relationship. That's the stuff that really matters, is because I'd rather influence 1, 2, 3 people very, very intentionally, very like dissected that way, opposed to doing it with hundreds of people that only get this facade of who I know I think they want, what I know they want to hear, you know? Yeah. But if they really want to know the hurt, the grind, the everything, I'm going to pour it into that person because they know someone like James would get it. Someone like Jack, who just saw me with a bunch of celebrities and I don't know, who knows where, just asked me in a DM like, oh, you cut celebrities, man, can you give me some tips? Like, sure.
Yeah.
It's a difference. So now, knowing who I am, I feel like I'm ready to tell my story that way so that they know the emotional roller coaster that I went through, and I'm able to describe it. Even though some things are very, like, it hurts, there's things that, like, I wouldn't care to share because I'm insecure. But then again, because of faith, if God has my back, I don't care. It's because that emotional thing, those emotional things that I go through, it's like, I'm pretty sure you guys are going through it, but you guys don't know how to say it. And it goes with our culture too. Like, we just keep things in anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I thought about it. Whenever God gives me the opportunity to really be like, all right, it's your time. Because barbers are doing it. They're, teaching classes and they're doing all these, they're selling out tickets and going to different places. But in terms of what I actually have to say, when barbers are ready for that, or I actually think it's time, I don't know. When I ask God, or when I really, really want to be that, I think I'll have that. Yeah.
I think that's the kind of the beauty at because of our age.
Yeah.
34, 35, we have these experiences to draw from now.
Yeah.
You're like the first person I've been able to kind of share that because like we're the same age. And, you've done way more than me. I'm just this nobody from Fairfield, but
I know.
Just like I've been like thinking about this a lot. Like, so like I agree with you 100%. I want to be able to share because I manage like a team of, I don't know, I'm like probably like 20 to 30 right now with my 2 restaurants.
Yeah.
And he's one of them. So
yeah.
And I want to just like tell them everything that's going in my head. And I was like, I want to save you so much time. Like, this is what you should do. You know what I mean? I just want to share everything because I feel so lucky, blessed, and just this thing that we have. It's perspective.
Yeah.
As a 35-year-old man, I'm not saying we're even close to where we want to be, but it's just nice to have that thing right now because we can draw from these experiences. And all I want to do is share.
For sure.
Yeah.
So. I think that's dope. And I think, having a team and knowing that you've already built it, I think it's always about like how to do it though. How do you want to do it? How do you wish you received it in that sense?
Yeah.
And so I look at it from that lens that I mentor 3 barbers right now that are like under my wing. They work at my barber shop but I get to really pour into them very, very direct and intentional. And then I throw little gems out on Instagram for people who do, but Instagram is Instagram. Yeah. But I truly believe in growing up from where we're from. It's like real life. That's what it is about. So you're not gonna cut someone's hair through Instagram. So
yeah.
So that's what I want to do, is really be very hands-on and person to person and all that types of stuff. So whenever that time comes, man, like I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna just go hard with it too.
Can I talk to you a little bit about your barbershop?
For sure.
So how long have you had your shop now?
2018, I want to say. Following up where I was at Asia, my best friend barber Donald, he's a barber from Vallejo. but me and him grew up when we were, I mean, he was in high school. He was a black barber. I was a Filipino barber. We didn't really like each other. You know, we were just kind of like tussling and battling, like who could do the best haircuts or whatever. But we grew in relationship over the years. And when I got back from the Philippines, he FaceTimed me randomly. He says, "Jay, I know you're coming back. Like, I got a place to work for you. I mean, a place for you to work." So it's called Solar Salons in Walnut Creek. It's basically 90 square foot studio spaces. So he had one, and there's like, I don't know, like think about this place. You could probably make like 12 of them in this whole space, right? But there's like 40 of them. And so he had one. It's downtown Walnut Creek. So I was renting under him for like 3 months. And I was like, dude, I could just make my own. But I had to build my clientele up. And so, yeah, I was at Solar Salons I still am, but now this is like my 4th year. And so I rented under him. I got one, and then I got 2, and then now I'm at my 3rd one. So I have 3 studios with 3 other barbers working with me, under Legacy Barber Studios. And it's really unorthodox how I kind of run the business, because traditionally, as any barber would think, when you're in school or when you're barbering in the garage, it's like when someone asks you, like, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to open my own shop, and I want to have 6 chairs, and I want to have 3. I never really answered that question for anyone. I was like, do you want to open a shop? I said, eventually, but I want to get my experiences. I want to get that out the way before I say I want to be an owner. I think there's a whole big difference in terms of barbering and the way they see it. It's like, why do you want to be an owner? Are you more attracted to the business and being a business owner, or are you just attracted to the money and being an owner? But I knew for myself, is like, I don't know how to manage people. I don't know payroll. I don't know any of this stuff. So all I wanted to do was cut hair. So it wasn't until I knew that I can manage myself in a 90-foot square space. I worked at a couple barbershops already. I guest barbered at certain places to really understand how I wanted to open my first barbershop, which is now a studio space. And I'm trying to find a fancy word, but going back on how it was 15 years ago, I was in a garage with one person here, building relationship, getting to know them. When you're in a barbershop and you have 3 chairs here, 3 chairs there, you got to learn how to entertain. You know, you can lay off and trying to get to know the person by talking about sports and shoes all day, and that guy can talk to you while I'm cutting your hair. But when it's just this, that's barbering to me. When you really can just take control of that environment and give the best haircut you can, service, all that stuff. And so when I figured that out within 6 months in terms of renting under my friend and opening my first studio, I want to share with the people that I know now. So I'm reaching out to the people that I'm super close to in terms of barbering, and reached out to one of my really, really good friends, Jordan, I've been mentoring him since he was in the garage, probably 10 plus years. I sought out people who I really wanted to work with me and to grow with me, that would comprehend what I'm saying also. And then now I have 3 barbers. I got Jordan, Jorge, and Vin. Vin's the future. Jorge he's special. He's special in terms of being able to really be really self-reflective on who he was and now who he is today, and really continue to work on himself as a person. And then you have Jordan, who's very holistic, organic, and he really knows his body and he knows how that works. So I have these dynamics of people, and my whole thing is instead of trying to manage 8 people here and just trying to manage that way, I want to figure out how I can help you be the best version of yourself as a barber and help you understand who that is, and then grow you that way. You too. And then until I can really know how much I can manage. But if I ever thought I can go in and manage 8 people and 8 people here, it'd be chaos to me, because I wouldn't be able to pour in the way I wanted to pour in. But Jordan been rocking with me for 4 years, so he's been with me 4 years, and now I'd hope to think that he's like where he wants to be, and he understands who he is, and you build that confidence Same with Jorge, and same with Vin.
You know what's really beautiful about this? I'm kind of, as you're talking to me, I'm trying to like rewind this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And as I'm listening to you, this is a business podcast, as I said earlier. But what's the beautiful thing about you as an entrepreneur? You're also an entrepreneur, okay. I think.
Okay.
It's like you haven't once brought up money.
Oh.
You know, all of this, everything we've talked about for the past hour and a half now.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, dude.
I wonder if my wife...
I feel bad. Yeah, we'll wrap it up soon. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Like,
I'll check.
You know, everything that you've mentioned in your entrepreneurial path to cutting up Stephen Curry, DeAndre Jordan, Doc Rivers, this has been like a thing of like something that's come from your heart. And that's like the main thing that I talk about on this podcast. I just want my listeners and all of the new listeners to know that, you know, life is really short. You should be able to do the things that you love. And, you know, you are probably the most legit guest I've had on this podcast. No offense to any of my other guests, but like,
thank you.
You know, it's not about the money. It's really about your creativeness. And look, you're trying to put on these, you said 5 people you have now? These
3 right now.
These 3 new barbers, and you described who they are, not what they do for you. It's like what you can do for them. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that's so beautiful because
thank you.
I can just relate to that on so many levels. It's not about the money. It's just about,
I didn't realize I didn't.
Yeah.
Think about it.
You didn't bring up money once, dude. Yeah. When you think businessman, you think bottom line. But that's such an old school thought.
Yeah.
And this path that you have that you're on right now, it's so different from a lot of people. Your perspective on things is very different. Wow. It's very different. That's the best thing about this podcast is talking to someone like you, and just it helps me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at certain things differently.
Dang, man. Thanks. I appreciate that, man. I thank you for having me, but I didn't really realize that in terms of not talking about it. But I think, again, I always bring it back to faith, is because when you do it for yourself.
Sorry about that bug, dude.
No, it's okay. But when you do it for yourself, I mean, it says in the Bible, like, money. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Everyone kind of knows that, you know. But I think that's what I learned early on, is like, we have everything we want. We can potentially get anything we want if we really do, if we really wanted to. But there's nothing more fulfilling serving. You know what I mean? Serving in the way I know how, and I think you know how too. You just gotta, you know. I think we all have to kind of figure out what that is, and not expect anything back.
Yes.
That's the hard part.
Yes.
That's what I had to deal with a lot early on in my career. Is like, I used to think I mentored people, but I didn't. It's because I wanted something back all the time. I messed up a lot of relationships. I burned bridges. I've done a lot of like things that I look back on and I'm like, dang, man, like that was JayR before Christ. This is why I'm the way I am now.
Amen to that. Yeah. Amen. I can say that, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know, so that's all I can, I guess, identify it as. Man, there's like so much more I want to talk to you about. Yeah. But I don't want to do this we shouldn't go any longer because I forgot, dude, your wife's here. Like, yeah. So, sorry.
I'd like to invite you back on one day, man. Yeah. And I have to say it now, like, I want to thank you for being such a cool dude, man. You didn't have to come on this podcast. You didn't have to say yes. So, and I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate you.
It's all good, man. Like I said, I think it happened over. I didn't expect myself to start podcasts, but I enjoy it now. You know, I've learned how to speak a little bit. You know, so hopefully it's.
You were a great guest, dude. This was amazing. This was amazing, man. Seriously.
Dope, man. Heck yeah. I'd love to come back. I think we should revisit and then.
And I'm pretty sure there's some projects we can connect on, dude.
Yeah, that'd be tight.
I would love to work with you.
Yeah.
And helping other people, man.
Yeah,
seriously.
Man. Let's do it.
For you, man.
We'll do that off the. Yeah. You know, whatever, but let's do it.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for having me. That was awesome.
And I know you don't need this, but like, where's your barbershop? What's your Instagram page? How can they find you?
Yeah. It's JayR Mallari. It's really my name. JayR Mallari. The barbershop. It's in Walnut Creek downtown. It's what else? It's legacy.barber on Instagram. Still like trying to figure out how I want to go business wise, but if you click on my link and even all the other barbers that are on there, you could just book on there. And I'm the thing is, I'm always taking new clients. It's never like I'm busy. Yeah, I get that, but I never was like too busy for anyone. It's like I want to be able to. This is what I like to do. I think cutting hair is like the easy part. I could get that done, but in terms of being able to share what I have, that's what I want to be able to do. So,
love it.
Yeah,
appreciate you, man.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.